Thank you for joining. This is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective. We come to you live just about every week and talk about contemporary American Hindu issues. I am Ajay Shah. I am co-convener and founder of Hindu Pact. And today we have a show with guests who had participated in the Pahalgam vigils and rallies across America. Today, we're going to talk about how the Hindu community responded in America. So, first, let me bring online Sudha Jagannathan. Sudha, as you all know, is the co host of the show. She's a relentless worker and karyakarta for all the Hindu causes, and she is a very articulate speaker for Hindu causes. Sudha, welcome. And I'll start out with if you have any introductory comments before we bring all our guests who are joining us from around the country come in and talk about their experience of how the vigils and the protests went on. So please, Sudha, to you.
Thank you, and welcome to everybody. I want to say that it's been really remarkable uh, to see the Hindu diaspora community come together in these very trying times. We have had a lot of trying times, I have to say, but each time we get a little more bolder. And the fact that you have put out the heading as Pahalgam attack, at one time, I don't know if we would have been as bold as that. We might even call it even in other terms, because it's time to really call out what happened in Kashmir. It was not an everyday kind of thing. And regardless of the media narrative in the United States, which Washington Post and New York Times are being called out by Hindus and by all kinds of people. But the remarkable thing about these vigils and the protests that we are seeing is that it's not just Hindus anymore. We have a coalition. We have Jews standing with us. We have Iranian standing with us. We have Yazid. We have a big coalition coming together. That is very heartening to see. Let's continue this conversation because we have to
Absolutely.
keep. Yeah.
So let me thank you, Sudha. Very well put. Let me bring all our guests in. So first, I want to introduce Dipti Mahajan. Dipti is the co-convener of Hindu Pact, and she leads our Chingari project as well. Deepa Karthik. She is joining us from New Jersey. She is the executive director for Hindu Vote Project, and she is one of the key leaders of Hindu community here in New Jersey, as well as a key leader for Hindu Pact. I also have with us Amit Rainaji. Amit ji joins us from Dallas, Texas. He is himself a Kashmiri, and he'll bring us the experience of the Hindu community in Dallas. We have two more people joining. Let me welcome Mahendra Sapaji. Mahendra Sapaji is joined from Washington, D.C. And we have one more guest who is going to join us from Houston. With that, let me just get started by asking Deepti, you and Deepa were kind of instrumental in bringing all the Hindu organizations together before the rallies were even thought of and planned. So the first step was bringing all the organizations together. The second step was planning the activities together, and then we'll talk about the visuals. So tell us your experience, and I'm going to ask Deepa the same question. Tell us your experience in bringing all these different organizations together. How many organizations came together? What was it like to bring all the organizations together?
Thank you, Namaste, Ajay, and warm welcome to all our audience today. I think this time around, and Siddharji rightfully said that this has happened many times to Hindu community, but this attack was an attack on all Indians. It was an attack on the country. The dark day of Tuesday, April 22nd, when it happened, the first thing that came to my mind was that this needs very unified approach. It needs a platform where all of us, irrespective of where we are, which organization we represent, we are from India first, and also we are Hindus. This attack was a direct attack on the country as well as an attack on Hindus. So the first idea that came to my mind was that let's bring everyone together. And I recently had another experience, which I'll share in a minute. But I personally work with pretty much every Hindu organization in the United States. and also across globally. So I reached out to the right people in all the organizations, and I'm going to name them in a minute. And everybody was on board. Everybody was hurt. Everybody was angry, and everybody wanted to do something. And together sounded really good to all of them. So spoke to Kona, HF, HFA, A4H, Global Hindu Temple Network. We had a couple of other organizations like
Vishnu Parishad of America.
Vishnu Hindu Parishad of America, Hindu Dvesha, and KOA. So a lot of Kashmiri organizations also participated, like KOA and Avanti Foundation. Sangh, HSS was very actively involved, and I'm not, yeah, so HAF as well, and of course, Hindu Pact that I represent. So all these organizations who, in their own capacity, work on all Hindu advocacy related issues, anything to do with temples, and basically representing Hindus across North America. So everybody came on platform, and the idea was to how do we put a coordinated front to tackle this evil that has hit us, basically hit home. There were a lot of activities that came to mind immediately, and then we also coordinated and got ideas and inputs from all the leaders of these organizations. One was, how do we react? So the reaction can be multifaceted, right? So one reaction was, we need to put our people together and do vigils and protests across the country. And based on wherever people were, there we all planned multiple vigils, but basically together, right? We are not representing Hindu Pact is doing a protest. HAF is doing a protest, or Kona is doing, or Sangh is doing. We just decided we all are going to do these protests across the country together. These protests were, I can say that the diaspora came together in the form of protests as well as silent vigils. There were prayer meets that happened organized across the country by various temples, and HMEC led that effort as well. So there are like so many things go into these vigils and protests, creating posters, something that would reflect everything that was going on in our minds. So having a common drive where we could bring up all the posters so that nobody is reinventing the wheel. We shared them across the country, and people shared what they had built. So it was like a common platform. There were other activities that we planned. One was coming up with action kits. So all organizations created their action kits, how to reach out to your lawmakers, what are the actions you need to know or take, and primarily what you need to know as to what has happened, what is the background, what is the history, and what exactly happened on that fateful day. Then we had common press releases, which was another great feat that all the leaders of all Hindu organizations put their statements together, and we represented Hindu community across North America to the global front. There are other few of those additional activities are there that we are working on. So that is
Yeah,
something to cover what exactly we did.
and we'll come back to you in Deepa. Dipti gave us a really good comprehensive view of all the what kind of activities were done and all that. What was your experience in bringing everyone together? Was it easy? Was it difficult? What did it take for everyone to come together and work cohesively? Because there's so many organizations, right? Everyone is doing a great job individually. Everyone has really good ideas, but they're all different organizations. And it is sometimes when a big event comes and everyone is focused in their own way of doing things, and none of that is wrong. Just everyone is doing a great job. But when you all bring everyone together, everyone has to kind of adjust to a common goal, common way of doing it, common artifacts that are created, or leave your and more bigger than anything else. Everyone actually worked under a United Hindu Groups banner, right? It's not even a banner. It's just that all the Hindu groups came together. So United Hindu Groups. Was it difficult to kind of bring all the different organizations together and they're not even using their own names in these rallies and vigils and all of that? What did it take? What was your experience?
Namaste, Ajay Bhai and Sudhaji. Thank you so much for inviting me to Hindu Lounge. This is my first time in Hindu Lounge, so I'm really excited.
So you did one Hindu Lounge with us. You're a
And
regular now.
can you see my background?
Yes, we can.
Is it upside down or is it okay?
It is reversed, but if you can reverse it, that would be great. Otherwise, it's fine.
Okay, and I'll get to that in a minute, but I'll just continue speaking so that I think it's supposed to be mirrored or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the issue. But okay, I didn't realize that because I was in a thumbnail, so I didn't see it that it was reversed. But I'll fix it in a minute.
Okay.
But firstly, I do need to give a disclaimer. Everything that I'm saying here is in my personal capacity, and I'm also a volunteer of Hindu Vote and directing its activities, which is purely in my personal capacity and not in any elected position that I currently hold. This is a disclaimer I do need to provide, so I hope it's a recorded piece and you will maintain this, Ajay, Bhai, in your recording as well.
Yes.
Just to respond to your question about whether it was easy or whether it was difficult or whether there were issues, I think this time around after the Pahalgam attack, all of the organizations knew that this is not just a dastardly act, but the brazenness of it. I think it shook all of us to our core. And the way it was executed, the manner in it was done, I think all the organizations agreed and understood that it is the need of the hour for us to come together, consolidate our resources, our strengths, and our visions in a manner that we can execute this united front. I really want to thank the leaders of all of the organizations of HAF, KONA, Vishwa Hindu Parishad, HSS. I don't want to miss anybody's name, but all of the other organizations that Dipti has already mentioned, each and every leader that I worked with came across so easy to work with. It was very seamless. There was a great amount of unity. It was very positive. The interactions were very positive. People were responding very spontaneously and also very quickly. I didn't waste any time in trying to follow up with people. So overall, I think the swiftness with which we came together, the clarity of thoughts that the leaders brought together, and the way we all came together to show a united front, not just to ourselves, which is a great confidence building opportunity for us, but also to our communities, which often feel like maybe we are not united. But this was really an opportunity where the community got to see the united strengths of all of the organizations that bring their various strengths to the table. So I was deeply encouraged. And also, I think I want to give hope to our entire Hindu community here in the United States and back in Bharat that when it's the need of the hour, we do come together. We are presenting a united front, which is very much a need of the hour. And I'm seeing a lot of agility and flexibility in the leaders. It was a very sad moment for us, but yet I was filled with hope.
So that's really good to hear. I know Satishji has to leave a little bit early, so he is joining us from Houston. And Houston rally was a very good rally over there. Houston is one of the big Indian centers. So what I would like to know from you is, Satishji, tell us what was your experience in Houston? Because Houston is just like New Jersey, Bay Area, etc. Houston is a very large Hindu community.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ajay Bhai. Namaste. This is from Frisco.
Oh, you're from Dallas area. Yeah, the question is still the same. Dallas is now a very evolving Hindu community, right? Dallas has, if you go to a place like Frisco and Plano and these places, there's so many Hindus in those areas, and the more and more mandirs are coming up. And so, what did it? Was it easy because this is a relatively new community, bringing everyone together in Dallas? Was it easy? Was it difficult? What did it take? How long was your planning? What did it take to plan? How many people came? What did it take to gather everyone? Give us your views.
First of all, namaste, Ajay Bhai, for inviting me to express my views here on the recent Pahalgam victims vigil that we did in Frisco Square. It was not easy. So let me put that straight. So the Pahalgam terrorist attack, as we all know, it happened on 22nd. I was giving my certification exam, Google Cloud, and as soon as I saw that incident, I was very much disturbed, and I did not sleep on the entire. And one of my few of my Sanatani friends here, Ramakrishna, GBS, and Raghavendra Sheth, they called and they said, even I was thinking in my mind to see, let me call a couple of my friends and other our BHP team to see, let us do some condemn this attack. And 23rd, they called me and we were like, they shared their thoughts. I said, let us do it. So the moment we decided, I started taking ownership and prepared the flyer and everything. Regardless of whatever organization we are associated, it is our dharma to stand for our Hindus. This incident not happening for the first time. The modus operandi has been same from 1857 up until 1922, 1857 up until 2025. The Hindus were killed based on our religion. I started working with PD and it went from Frisco City back and forth. There are some questionnaires that I had to fill. Within no time, we could secure the permission. Then we started floating the flyer and reaching all the organization, our Shaka, HSS, Sang Shaka, Mahesh Chamaria ji and Vishnu ji. I reached Global Hindu Heritage Foundation, Prakash Uncle, and the Hindu Subdeep, Pankaj Kumar ji, and Hemant Kaleji of Hero Foundation. They said you can start using our logos. So I started adding our logos and then I got our Hindus. The emotions were high this time, regardless of what they are associated. They came, it stood, and there were about more than 300 to 400 our Sanatanis gathered here at Frisco Square. We did in a moving display of unity and compassion. We stood there for a noble cause. The community leaders, like our VHP DFW chapter, Sri Gaurji, he expressed his views, and Dr. Prakash Rao Velgapudi president of GHHF, our Gavi Kumarji, who is the director of Veteran Affairs and VHP DFW chapter director, and he was a retired Indian Navy commander, a veteran. All of us collectively urged the community to stay strong. Everyone showed up from all the mandirs and all the organization, the entire cities from North Texas, they showed up with their small children, elderly parents. We raised the slogans of, we seek the justice for Pahalgam Hindu victims. We narrated, we expressed in a way like the millions of Hindus were killed. It was the same with 1921 Mopla, 1946 Razakar movement, 1946 Direct Action Day or Khilafat, 1947 the partition of India, 1971 the partition of Bangladesh, and 1990s the Kashmir exodus of 400,000 Hindus were brutally killed, raped, and they were tortured. And we saw it in 2002, 2008, and on a good gesture, since we supported other Israeli organizations when they had the similar act, they showed up and they stood with us. And there were some Kashmiri Pandits, they shared their thoughts because they were the direct witness of 90s act. So
What was the emotions like from people who participated? What did you notice about the? You talked about your own emotions. You didn't sleep all night. What was other people's emotions that you can glean? What did they say? Was it sadness? Was it resolve to fight back? What were the emotions like?
it was mix of everything, sadness. People were like, they were saddened by this attack because it happened to civilians. And day in and out, 24/7, 365 days, our brave soldiers are sacrificing their lives. And people, based on their prior experiences, the prior incidents they witnessed or they might have heard, be it Gokul Chat or the incident that happened in Hyderabad or Bhaginagar. So they were concerned. They said they will collectively, this time at least, they know it is about time for all the Hindus to wake up from the deep 1,000 years of sleep that they are in. So they said they will stay united and they did seek justice for the Pahalgam Hindu victims. And it is just not Hindu victims. We know as a Hindu, every life matters. He also urged the entire world to stay united to fight against this evil terrorism. This needs to be eradicated from the face of the world. This was the message that they wanted the media to cover, and we seek the media to also play responsible. Like it is every citizen's responsibility of Bharat or be it NRIs to stay with our Bharat and with our Prime Minister Modi ji and with the Indian Army.
Satish ji, I wanted to ask you, amongst the 300, 400 people that showed up, which amazing, okay, that many people showed up. I wanted to ask you, there were people from all parts of India. The one thing that was shocking in the Pahalgam was, I have to say, my neighbor was killed in India. When I heard that news, I couldn't believe, because I had seen him in February. He was looking forward to this trip with his daughter, his wife, and his twin grandsons. And he was killed because he was a Hindu. So there were people from Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Bengal, all over the place, because they were tourists and they had a sense of feeling security and safety are now ensured by the government, etc., and tourism had increased. So I just wanted to know, amongst the 400 people that were there, did people from all the different India show up? And
Yeah, it is just not part of India. Like last time when Bangladesh Hindus were being tortured, so we stood for them. Even the Bangladeshi Hindus, they came there and they said that each and every person personally came forward and thanked us, saying, "You did it in US. This means a lot for us and for the entire Hindu community." And they do know that we stood whenever there was need for them. They are all Hindus, regardless of they are on the other side of border. They are Hindus. Utpantai. So we felt like we did our dharma to stand for the victims. They were targeted because of being Hindu. So we thought, let us do this basic step of showing our solidarity. And all of the participants pledged that they will stay united. There were a lot of slogans coming, like they were saying, like, declare Bharat as Hindu Rashtra as a matter of fact. And there were other things. The message was to give to the broader community to support and make sure that they are not contributing directly or indirectly to the act of terrorism. And let me also add, the entire protest was peaceful, regardless of all the threats that we received. There were a lot of threats. Even people from other communities, they were just trying to do the posturing act. They were mentioning that they will sue us and the participants. And I said, okay, if you have that under First Amendment, we are covered. We are doing it for the sake of our Hindus who lost their life. There are a lot of things that can be said and that cannot be in the larger interest of our Hindu community, safety and security. And Frisco City and Frisco PD, they did support us. They did what it takes for them to curb the counter protest and all of those. The city worked after hours as well to give us the permission. They worked until 8:30. They were going back and forth. Everyone, this is the first time the number of participants. They know based on the scenario, they did react. Keeping aside all of their work, they came because this is the time that we have to stay united. The message was loud and clear from everyone, whoever participated. Since we are from VHP and all Hindu organizations, it is our responsibility to make sure all the mandirs and everybody are participating. It's just not like we hashtag and then forget it. We have to keep this momentum of uniting Hindus. So that's my personal view.
Thank you, Satishji. Really appreciate that. Thank you for joining. Please stay. If you have to go, I appreciate your coming, but thank you.
Yeah, I'll stay for 5-10 minutes.
Thank you.
But I just have to take another call. Thank you.
Sudha, you want to ask questions for Amitji and then maybe
Yeah.
by when he joins. So go ahead.
Yeah. Before I get to Amitji, I
come
want to compliment Deepthi and Deepa. I want to say I'm so happy to see girl power. Okay. So I am so happy that the two women leaders we have took charge of bringing everybody together and everybody lined up. Thank you. Thank you both for keeping usually a little bit of a rowdy group together on the task. So kudos to you. Amit ji,
That's not an easy job. I think they were working day and night. I saw all the texts that were going back and forth, and I can attest to the fact that they worked day and night to make this happen. And they
you
were
know,
very
on
modest.
top of all,
That's why I asked that, was it difficult? And they said, "No, it was not difficult." Okay.
and that's on top of the full-time jobs and family and all of that.
Exactly. They literally work day and night. I cannot imagine the kind of effort that they would put in. It's just incredible. And then you were engaged too, because I know that you were also doing a lot at the same time.
Say that we have the right leadership and inspiration.
In Houston, I see there is something going to happen in front of the Pakistan consulate, but please share what happened in terms of vigils and protests, etc.
And then
Yes.
Houston is hard, right? Because there are 80 mandirs and 81 organizations and dozens of 42 or 43 mandirs. And it's a hard place to get everyone together at the same time.
If you look at other way, it's easy also because you have so much activities happening in Houston. So thank you everyone for giving me this platform. Actually, I'm filling in for Achalesh Amarji, who is our Houston go-to person for all these type of events. What happened in Pahalgam, I think I'm a Kashmiri Pandit myself, and I have seen the exodus of 1990. I was 8 years old back then, 8 to 9 years old, and I have seen it firsthand. So I'm one of the survivor of that, and I have seen that dark night of January 1990 with my eyes. What happened in Pahalgam again? It's nothing. If you ask me as a Kashmiri Hindu, it's nothing new for me because we have seen a series of massacres like these Hindu massacres happening since 1990 all the way till 2025. Pahalgam attack is nothing different. This time it happened to the tourists and it happened to pan India tourists. That's why it's getting all the attention. In last 4 years since Article 370 was abrogated, there have been killings in Kashmir, targeted killings of our community, which was not presented on the mainstream media because it goes against the narrative which we are trying to portray that everything is fine in Kashmir, which it is not. Let me make it clear tourism is not a barometer for peace. Tourism was always good in Kashmir before even 1990. If you recall, all the Bollywood movies, they will go to Kashmir. They would not go to Switzerland. So tourism was always there. But recently, tourism has gone up, and I agree to that. But that doesn't mean that normalcy has returned to Kashmir. That normalcy will only return to Kashmir when justice will prevail. So we are still waiting justice, not even a single person who was responsible for the killings of our community. Thousands of our people died. Nobody has been tried yet. Till our Kashmiri Hindu community or any Hindu for that matter, since now 370 is abrogated, can go back and settle, normalcy is not restored. And tourist is somebody who comes, spends his money and goes back. He doesn't stay there. But what we were seeing in last few years, a rise in tourism, and we were trying to claim that everything is normal. But unless that ideology which exists there, which still exists there, and which is propagated by our neighbor, is there, I don't think there's a way to call it that everything is normal. But what happened in Houston? Let me go back to the point. So we were actually planning to have a similar vigil for what is happening in Murshidabad. That was our original plan, and we were planning for it for the last Saturday. But then Kashmir Pahalgam happened in between. So we all, I think, half of dozens of organizations came together. VHPA, Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora, then Hindus of Greater Houston, Disha, Global Hindu Action, and Durgabadi temple, which is one of the Bengali temple here. So we all of us came together, and there were 400 plus participants in the vigil. We had a vigil in Memorial Park in Sugarland, Texas, which is an outskirts of Houston. So it was a very emotionally charged vigil. And prior to that vigil on Thursday, this happened on Saturday. On Thursday, we had a vigil in University of Houston inside the campus. So we did a vigil on University of Houston. And then on Tuesday, we are planning another vigil in the front of the embassy, Pakistan consulate.
That should be promoted very heavily, especially all of us here. Any Houston family, friends we have, we should
Yeah.
make that.
I think we want at least 40 to 50 people because that area doesn't have much parking and all that. So if we can have 40 to 50 people, that will be manageable. But hopefully it's on Tuesday in the morning, 10 to 12.
Can I ask a question? Because you brought up the protest in front of the Pakistani consulate. You're probably familiar what happened to the protest that was done outside the Pakistani embassy in London, where the Pakistani attaché, I think it was defense attaché from Pakistan, was actually holding a poster against Indian Air Force, and he was giving the, as if he's trying to behead someone's sign. Any concern from the Hindu community, or just absolute resolve that we're not going to stand for this kind of aggression from Pakistan, even in a country like India or UK or something like that?
Sometimes in the past, when we have organized these events, we do see counter participation happening there. So we'll see what happens. We have already informed the authorities that we are doing this vigil in front of Pakistan embassy. We'll see how it goes. That's why we don't want hundreds of members to show up there. So it should be 40 to 50, and then we'll see how it goes. We do anticipate that they are already aware of it, which we have already publicized. So there may be some counter protest, but that's fine. We'll handle it.
I think London is a little bit of a different character, but because there was a
Normally,
big
Pranali, we also had that in when 370 happened.
yeah,
We had
yeah.
very so we did a similar protest, and there were people on the other side of the street, and nothing happened, but it was little rough.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course, they don't give in. They don't walk away. And it's a good thing that we show up. Tomorrow, Monday, I think Los Angeles is having a protest in front of the Pakistani consulate
Yes.
there on Santa Monica Boulevard. Hoping a lot of people show up there. I was planning to go, but unfortunately, I am also planning to go speak at the city council here. But go ahead,
Right.
Amit ji.
Yeah, so there were two more vigils which we had on top of the University of Houston and this one. So on Saturday, we had a vigil in India House here, where we prayed a Shraddhanjali to all the martyrs. So we basically printed all of their profiles and all that. And then we had another vigil in the Consulate General of India on Sunday, which was also attended by selected few. So we did pray our Shraddhanjali there as well. So in total, I think we had 4 events. So
It's very impressive. I'm so glad you're doing it at different forum. Like today in Washington, D.C., I think the Indian embassy had a gathering of the community and it was raining, but people went and did their part. That is, I'm glad to see all of this happening because
Actually,
we
people
need
from Mahendra Sapaji is here from DC, and I believe Deepa also went there. Oh, Mahendra ji just got disconnected.
I'll just make one more point, Ajayji. On Monday, we are having, I'm sure you guys are aware. So Hindu Action and Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora and Kashmiri Overseas Association, they are having a briefing, congressional briefing on Monday in DC.
Yeah.
So that is something we're looking for tomorrow.
Two things that DC had planned. So one was part of that coordinated effort with all the organizations that we wanted to have one common vigil in DC, because knowing DC is the face of the country that we belong now. And that was another event that was planned very minutely, and every organization participated in that. And Mahendra Bhai was very instrumental in that. So I'm gonna Mahendra ji as CEO, so we can have you relay the experience of DC Vigil last week.
Deepa, were you able to make it to DC?
Unfortunately, my health didn't permit me to, so I had to miss the DC vision. But I look forward to hearing about it from.
Mahendra Bhai is here. So Mahendra Bhai, your video is off. Maybe you can turn the video on and
Okay, Ajay, before Mahendra Bhai comes in, I just wanted to convey this as well. We offered our condolences and silent prayers for 2 minutes. We started the Frisco Solidarity with that. And I just wanted to add that. And with that said, I would have to take a leave from you all and let us stay united and let us keep doing things for the Hindu cause. Ajay Bhai, thank you for giving us this platform to convey our thoughts and prayers for
no, thank you for
the,
all
the
the work
wounded.
that you've done in Dallas. All that you have done. So thank you.
That's my dharma, and I do anything for my dharma. Jai Shri
Thank
Ram,
you.
and thank you, everyone.
So Mahendra Bhai is here. Mahendra Bhai, if you can turn on your video, we were just talking about DC. So
Well, Ajay bhai, thank you very much having me. For some technical reason, my my video is not turning on.
okay, that's fine. Please, so Sudhaji, go ahead and you had some questions for Mahendra Bhai. Oh, he's here.
Yeah, there you are.
There
Okay.
you are. We can see you now.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for
Go ahead, Mahendra
joining.
Bhai.
Yeah, please share with us all the things that you did in Washington, D.C. Today there was some at the embassy protest, right?
Well, definitely. Once again, we are going through, we meaning we Hindus are going through some very tragic times. It's not the first time that the Hindus have been killed by Islamist terrorists, but it has been happening periodically. So last week we hosted our first vigil in front of the Montgomery County government, in front of at the state of Maryland, and we had an excellent presence from people from across Bharat. And today we went to the India House at the Indian Embassy, and we did the similar vigil. At the India House, we had, I would say, more than 500 people in attendance from various communities and various organizations. And we all mourn for the departed souls. People were a little bit angry in the sense that not only we have been facing this kind of onslaught from Islamist terrorists for, I guess, decades and centuries, but here, while we were mourning, we were not allowed to carry even a simple banner naming those who died, right? Forget about highlighting the terrorist religion. So we appreciate the embassy holding this vigil, but I wish they would have allowed us to express our pain, because this is not the first time. And I don't know, but sometimes I feel that this is not the last time either. There were around 500 people, and it's not only me. Many people showed frustration with the embassy. And we all hope and pray that this time we do not limit ourselves to some surgical strikes, but we have to come up with a response such that this does not happen again. And even internally within our Bharat, I've been reading some reports about suggestions on Bharat having Patriot Act, the one that the US has. So I think it is now or never. We have to recognize Islamic terrorism and deal with it firmly. Otherwise, we could face further difficult times in coming decades.
So
Mahendra
tomorrow,
Bhai, you make such good
congressional
points. And
briefing.
let me ask you, sorry, can I just quickly ask one before we move to your question? Just a follow up, if you don't mind. When your first rally happened, right? That happened very quickly. And what was your experience? The people's emotions at the time were quite raw. So, what did you notice? Were there people who were very disturbed? What was the age group? What was the demographic of it? There were a lot of people who were from Bharat, or they were from different countries, or they were young, old. What were the demographics? What were the emotions? How was it expressed?
Majority of the people that attended the Montgomery County vigil were from across Bharat. And in terms of age group, we had university students all the way up to people like 80 years old. We had people that are born and brought up in Bharat. At the same time, we have some adults that are born and brought up in US. So from like within Bharatiya community, we had a very diverse group. And once again, they were just sharing their frustration. While we were standing at the crossroads at the city council court office, there were many people passing by and they were honking in support of our awareness campaign. And we also had a few people stopping by and making detailed inquiry about what exactly happened. The reason being, what we sense is that this act of Islamic terrorism, I think it's not been sufficiently, or I should say correctly covered in the Western media. And that limits the outreach. It won't be wrong to say that once again, the Western media had failed to portray the accurate and unbiased news.
That hasn't changed. It's
Yep.
just business as usual when it comes to New York Times, BBC, Washington Post. Actually, I have to say it's very heartless how they have portrayed this particular massacre by calling it militants or gunmen randomly shooting, etc. I don't know what their purpose is, but really they stand with the Islamists. That's how I call them out. And it's a big shame. I'll come back to you, Mahendraji. I wanted to ask Deepthi, what about the Bay Area rally? You had vigils and rallies in the Bay Area.
Thank you so much, Sudaji. Yeah, so we had multiple rallies and protests in the Bay Area. One was planned by the entire community coming together. And there we had over, I would say, 350 people. And I would really like to mention that the support of our Jewish friends. So a lot of Jewish friends showed up and they stood in solidarity. And there's one picture that we had shared across multiple social media platforms which said, India, you are not alone. And this person had the flags of all the different countries like Israel and India and a couple of other countries where we have seen this Islamist terrorism in the past. One quick thing that I want to add to that is that this is the first time that people have, even our Hindu community, has for the first time come outwardly and calling it out for what it was, because this was exactly Gaza 2.0. It was exactly the modus operandi was the same. So the people who participated in the vigils in the Bay Area, we had representation from interfaith friends that we work with. There was one that happened at the Golden Gate Bridge, and then one we did in Fremont, which was the biggest one, and then another big one happened in San Jose, where elected city officials showed up as well. And there was a Chinese group of people who were protesting for something of their own. And they actually came and asked questions and they said that, yes, we heard about it. And then they joined us. So that was very heartfelt that now this pain is being felt across the different communities and we are calling it out for what it is.
Very nice. But I think also on April 22nd, which is when this dastardly massacre happened, that evening, Berkeley, the students at Berkeley held a vigil. And I think many of the community members from Bay Area drove to Berkeley to stand with the students, which I thought was a really fantastic thing. And 2 days before that, on April 20th, the Berkeley students did an event on Kashmir. I want to just call that out because it's been very hard on university campuses for students to speak about Kashmir. But now our students have built some coalitions, but we need to continue to support those students as adults, the community showing up there so they are not intimidated and threatened and abused and assaulted in any way. Very nice for our community to go there.
So we had our people there what happened in University of California, Berkeley. So it was a youth from Houston only, Drew Cole, who actually presented it. And then we had people from KOE,
Yes.
three of our dots who
Yeah.
were there support.
No, thank you. It's been now. I think that the young students taking charge is very important because the next generation has to carry over and carry through.
So
Okay.
that
I'm very glad they're
Let's bring Deepa on for New
Yeah.
York and yeah, go ahead.
How
You can
many
ask Deepa
people
some
about
questions.
New York and New Jersey, Deepa?
So we had a vigil in New York at Times Square, and we actually had two groups there. A Tibetan Buddhist group heard about our vigil and they came and joined us. They stood with us with the banners, etc. And they were very supportive and wonderful. They brought their children also along. So I think there is a lot, sort of an organic movement that is coming up, that is realizing that we don't have to wait for governments to uh, put out statements. And now this has become every individual's issue also. So we had a Tibetan group, and also we had an Armenian genocide protest that had happened, which was very huge, right next to us. And we had a lot of people from the Armenian side come over and express solidarity with what happened in Pahalgam. And we had Chuck Schumer who had come there to the Armenian side.
And Chuck Schumer is the senator, for people who don't know, is the senator from New York and the minority leader, right?
Yeah. So he had come as well. And then we got people from the Armenian side also to come, and they expressed their sadness at what had happened. The New Jersey Vigil was organized by a group of individuals. I believe they're senior citizens, etc., who organized a group. And it went off very well. But my only small observation on that particular vigil was that we need to be more direct when we are speaking. So a lot of elected officials came over there, but not a single elected official used the word Hindu genocide, which was very disheartening. We really urge our elected officials to not, gloss over this incident as just a random terror attack and use words like humans were killed or a tragic incident. These are just simple veneers, if you will, to mask a Hindu genocide. And we need to make sure that when we speak to the elected official who comes out from the dais later on, to let them know that they need to be more direct. I don't know why they're not being as clear as they can, but they can certainly call it a Hindu genocide, which is what it was, right?
Well, I don't tell you why they won't say
It's
that.
it's not one-time occurrence, because other speakers in this panel said this is just one incident in a long list of incidents that are happening through the decades, through the centuries. This is just yet another step in that direction.
Yeah.
But I want to know why it doesn't happen, Deepa, because I'll tell you, congressman from the Virginia area responded to some of the community who had our email campaign and also HAF's email campaign. And that congressman said, I hear you, but I've been very concerned about India when they shut down the internet there, and my constituents couldn't reach. This was in 2019, 2020. And then he said, I'm always asking Indian government to. So he really did not answer the question. But the reason why they all do that, Deepa, is because our community doesn't speak up as strongly and as much as we should. But the other side does. They knock on those doors every week, every day. They cry a lot for being victimized by Indians and Indian government. So that is a narrative here. So unless we start to speak up, I think we will continue to be facing this thing about, a tragic incident, one of a kind, that sort of thing. We have to change it.
Definitely.
I do have a question for you, Deepa, and maybe you can answer that, because Times Square is a very interesting place, right? With a lot of tourists, it's very high profile, a lot of footfall, a lot of traffic. When people, what was the reaction of the people who were just passerbys? You talked about the Tibetan community, the community who are already doing something there. General public who is just in thousands is just walking by.
So I'll give you the good news and the bad news, right, on this one. The good news was that there were random passersby who wanted to hold banners, who wanted to stand along with us, because it was an hour. We stood there for an hour, right? Just to raise awareness about what has happened. And we had random strangers who wanted to hold our banners and stand. And then there were those who very much looked like they were from the Indian diaspora, but they were not willing to hold the banner. So that was a little disappointing. But I focus more on the positive that we had this amazing support from the Armenian group. We had amazing support from the Tibetan group and a lot of support from there was a group of young Caucasian boys who were just having fun. They were out in the city. They had come and they were like, yes, we are with you guys. They took the banners. They stood with us. A lot of good things came out of it. So the people are recognizing this incident for what it is. And I think we have a responsibility to stop this contagion of this sort of a comatose society that we are becoming, right? So I see a lot of this on social media, especially people who have, and I recently came across one post where one gentleman said, oh, I went to a vigil and there was a Kashmiri Pandit who came there, but he had no hate in his heart and he was extremely calm and he had no remorse for what had happened and all that. And he tried to explain it as a higher moral virtue that, oh, this Kashmiri Pandit had suffered all of this. His family was affected by the genocide. He was part of the exodus and he left Kashmir in 1990. And though he settled here, he doesn't have any hate in his heart and he's still such a pure soul and all that. I think we have to understand that I totally sympathize with somebody who has been through such a horrific experience, right? Because it will scar you for life. What you have seen is unimaginable. I recall the book, Rahul Pandita's book, Our Moon Has Blood Clots, right? Everything that is explained over there, it's very hard to even read it, let alone see it. So I guess truly sympathize. But this person who is narrating this is actually using it as a moral high, superior reaction, which I think we must understand. At this point, what we need to tell our Hindu brothers and sisters is that we have to wake up, we have to rise, we have to fight. I agree. There is no calmness. There's no a feeling of we're going to be equanimous about this. I don't think this is an incident that requires that sort of a reaction.
Meet I had a comment.
Yeah. Deepaji, I just want to say, I bet if you ask him, he would not have seen the 1990 genocide. He might have moved before that. I do agree there are some, but that number is shrinking day by day. And they suffer that Nehruvian mindset. Those people who left Kashmir 100, 200 years back, they have a different narrative. But that number is shrinking. People who have seen 1990 genocide, they will ideally call it, they will call spade a spade. I have seen it. So we are always upfront and we say things as it is. And our job is to basically bring that awareness. Kashmir file was just one of the major thing for us because prior to that, nobody even acknowledged when we used to say this. Kashmir file at least started that process for us. But yeah, I agree with you. There will be always those 5%, 10% secular, I call them. They just look idealistic and
But I just want to point out one thing.
Sorry, Sudha, go ahead, please.
Yeah, what I want to say is that we saw that play out in Berkeley. One of the student senate members, Justin Taylor, stood with the Hindus and put out a very strong condemnation of the Pahalgam massacre. Then what we saw was the three Senate students, one a Hindu, Niyati Ram, okay, a Senate student there, trying to contextualize that by saying it's Islamophobia to talk about this. So imagine how brainwashed and corrupted their minds are. And this is a kid who has been born and raised in the United States. Okay. And this is what she said. I know we are running out of time. I just want to wrap up a few things. We have had vigils in Minnesota in the icy, cold, rainy evening. We have had vigils in Cleveland. We have had a vigil in Rutgers University. About 60, 70 students and parents showed up. So that was a good one. And I want to call out the vigil in Toronto. Cold night and Sean Binda's comments on why we need to stand up. I'd ask everybody to go check out Sean Binda's comments. He's an Indo-Caribbean, Indo-Canadian guy, never been to India, but he's so passionate about having that heritage. I wish all of our young people would follow him and speak like him and be proud of his heritage. So all of these things, even in Las Vegas, there was
I
a
was just going to ask you, what about Las Vegas? Because I know that
so there was a vigil because I communicated all of the messages coming from the group from Deepthi and Deepa, and I sent it to the group and the HSS team. They put together very rapidly a vigil. They did it last Thursday evening, and they were all busy because yesterday, we had a Guru Vandana here. But they did peel off to have that vigil. Then the temple, the Las Vegas Hindu and Jain temple, did a Shanti Puja. Yesterday, they did another Shanti Puja and read out the names of all of the 26
I
victims.
think Deepthi mentioned earlier, and I want to just reiterate that one more time, and that is HMEC yesterday had an event, online event, where a lot of mandirs and the priests from the mandirs got together and had a prayer meeting online. And you can find that video on VHPA videos on YouTube. VHPA videos is the handle, and you can find the HMEC bringing all the mandirs together, and we fully acknowledge their contribution there and participation. So in 1 minute or less, I'll just go to both Deepa and Dipti and ask what is the next in this series of activities that we are doing in US. So we just want to focus on US and want to know from both of you, because at some point this vigil and the mourning and all of that will end because people move on as they always do. But the next phase is just upon us, right? Because the Indian government has already promised that they are going to take action against Pakistan for perpetrating this type of blatant violence, blatant massacre. In many ways, you can call it a continuation of drip, drip genocide. So, what is this United Hindu groups going to do when that moment is upon us? So, I'll give you 1 minute and then maybe Sudha can wrap up the whole thing. And Amitji, you feel free to jump in after Dipti if you have something to say. And I'll let Sudha wrap up the whole thing. Go ahead, Dipti.
So there are a couple of things that we are planning to do, and one outreach to our audience and whoever watches this video is every group has shared their action kits, what we call toolkits or action kits, and please click the button and send those emails out to the lawmakers. It's very important. Like throughout our discussion today, we have said that Hindus don't speak up enough. This is our time, this is our chance to reach out and let our words and our pain be known to all the lawmakers. So there are a couple of things that we have been planning as our united efforts. Is a couple of things are like sending out our memorandums and statements to various world organizations and to the right people, make sure that we are heard. And one thing I wanted to also mention that was very timely, 1 month before, we actually did a complaint with UNHRC by Hindu Pact, and again supported by organizations like HAF, Kona, and A4Edge. And also we got 60 signatures from across the globe. And there were individuals and organizations from New Zealand, Australia, UK, Malaysia, Caribbean. So a lot of people have signed a complaint against Pakistan for the term that I just used, strip genocide that has been happening in with the minorities in Pakistan for last more than 7 decades. So we will share more information on that. But we do have a couple of things lined up. Let's not stop our pain from being heard and not pain from showing that, yes, we are heard and we are angry this time.
Thank you, Dipti.
Yeah, I wanted to add Dipti covered it beautifully. But what's happened is, unfortunately, what has happened today in terms of coming together, etc., there can be a situation that we will need to come together like this again sometime, because that is a way things goes. So we have so I don't want to use the word playbook, but like a way to come together. We know who are the right leaders we need to pull in. how we need to work together, how we put all of this together, Dipti, I think in maybe 1.5 day or so, everything. Or in fact,
Wow.
yeah, probably less than that, right?
Yeah.
I think now we have some, it's like an emergency call that we can sound off to our to all our organizations, the leaders of all the organizations to come together. So I think we have now a way of working, if I can call it that. So I hope we never have to use it. But unfortunately, the way the world moves, sometimes we need to be prepared. So I think this was unfortunately given the sad circumstances, and we never thought that we would have to work on something like this, given how Kashmir was going and what we were reading in the news. So it really helped us to come together very quickly. Technology also enabled it. And people have become very swift in using tools, etc. So responses, coordination became a lot easier. We hope that we can come together for other more constructive sort of projects that shine a light on a lot of other issues that we are facing. And I hope Dipti gets all the support that she needs for Chingari. And I will need all of the support for Hindu vote, because next year we are having over 40 states that are going in for governor election. So I'm looking forward to a lot of support from all these organizations to mobilize, to do voter mobilization, as well as making sure that we have mandirs and other NGOs that work on the Hindu causes to get involved in Hindu.
Thank you, Deepa. Sudha, can you maybe summarize and wrap up?
Yeah.
So then there's a comment from some uneducated person in the chat, and I wanted to respond to it. Somebody probably from Pakistan joined our Hindu lounge, and he's saying that these guys are unorganized. No, we are not evil. That's the point. We believe in peace and prosperity and good for everyone. That's the basics of being a Hindu. Vasudev Kutumbakam. We think that everybody is a joint family, which you guys don't. So we are not unorganized. We are just not evil as you.
I want to say we have done an impressive job of coming together very quickly, right? This dastardly action happened on the 22nd. We started the vigils on the same day and then continued it. And more events are being held. Now, the one thing we need to take forward is the communication with our elected officials at all levels. Nobody knows the story because we are very quiet. We are very good community. We don't share our trauma and our stories enough. We are the victims in all of this attacks on that happen in India, happen anywhere else. We are the victims, but the other side claims victimhood because they get the attention, right? And now we need to claim it back. So let's not stop the vigils and the protests and the communication to our elected officials and the Hindu vote in 2026. We need to show up and let our elected officials or the candidates know we are here. We want you to represent us as meaningful, productive members of society and listen to us. Please take action where it's needed. Call all of our officials and say, condemn this act. I have to say, I'm disappointed. California Governor Newsom, who praised the Hindu community to the skies last year, has not condemned this particular dastardly act. That is quite unacceptable. And we need to call them out. So that is very important. But I want to say, let's not stop the momentum in building coalitions. You brought some good examples of how other communities want to stand with us. Let's bring them on. Let's build that into a solid coalition because we need strength in numbers. And I think everybody who are doing the protest, Armenians, Jews, Hindus, Yazidis, we all have a common enemy, right? And I think if we stood together, our stories are more powerful. So I just want to ask for that. And I want to thank all of you for putting in the time and effort doing this on top of your lives. So thank you all for that.
This is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective. We bring Hindu Lounge live just about every week. So please tune in for our next episode.